Hello and welcome to Thinkermaker, a savvy self-production. We're going to race through a lot in this second episode and the next one. We're going to explore how economic theory and an obsession with data metrics has driven decades of policy to make SushiPIzza out of British culture. So, let's do this. Expert economists have a fancy formula to calculate a nation's welfare. This metric is called Gross Domestic Product, GDP. But look, there are no minus signs to subtract costs like pollution. It ignores home productivity and the black market. But it does count cleanup costs of terrorism as a positive. It's a stupid number. This list of the 20 happiest countries shows that GDP, the blue area, accounts only for a small bit of national welfare. Other things matter more, such as how safe it is for a person to walk outside at night. To include such things, some leaders started a new measure called General Well-Being, GWB. But experts still obsess over GDP growth, so politicians and bankers also obsess over this stupid number. Now, did you know that after World War I, international money movement was limited by stability controls? But in the 1970s, experts threw that out, so factories closed in the West and jobs went abroad for cheap labour. And we call that jobigration. Here, look, Jaguar Land Rover in 2014 had 35,000 jobs worldwide, only 6,000 in the UK. So, foreigners are taking British jobs, but on foreign soil. Look how GDP growth dominates politics at the highest level. This endless quest to grow GDP is a beauty contest of nations. The UK is the fifth biggest, and the idea of Europe's single market is driven by GDP growth. Expert theory says trading in a bigger market increases GDP and Europe can be one big market. But theory also says 4 freedoms are needed for a single market to work. Free movement of money, of goods, services, and people. Now, are these freedoms, or are they just theoretical demands which ignore that when people move around, they bring their culture with them, creating culture mishmash, which can upset welfare? Here are examples. In 2006, this French football coach predicted displeasure as traditions died with foreign investment in the English game. But experts missed that. Why? Culture's not in their formula. Also, to ensure fair play between traders, a single market needs a referee, the European Court of Justice. The problem is their jurisdiction goes beyond commercial law to include civil law, and this impinges on culture. For example, the EU once tried to say that British chocolate doesn't contain enough cocoa to classify as chocolate. Ha! They also ruled a British butterfly farm must be classified as a zoo and must use the standard European street sign for zoos, a white elephant. In this 2019 story, European courts outlawed British citizens from protesting against their own royal family. This tramples ancient Magna Carta rights, a heritage for which people of Britain fought hard 800 years ago. And this has nothing to do with commerce in a single market. Anyway, back to economic theory. which encourages specialization even for whole nations. Germany manufactures, France farms, and the UK does services. Finance. So the UK is addicted to the finance sector with too many eggs in one basket, and some call it our golden goose, but in truth, it's a sugar daddy. The UK needs rehab to free itself from this addiction. Britain was once a nation of common sense, pragmatic savers. But the preaching to keep growing GDP has driven policy to spur business to use adverts like these to get people spending on credit excessively. It's turned the UK into a nation of individualistic and materialistic debt junkies. It's a ticking time bomb. The cultural aspect is already exploding with Brexit. Policies favouring commerce for GDP trampled standards of decency, that's culture. Even children are sexualised for profit and became materialistic. That's not British culture. And experts who worship numbers like GDP go wrong a lot of the time. Numbers can lie. Let's see. The Bank of England admitted that its money policy was all wrong in the years before the 2007 and 8 financial crisis because experts' inflation data was completely wrong. This contributed to making that crisis, which led to austerity, and austerity is one of the drivers behind Brexit. The experts failed to predict the 2007 crisis would come, failed to predict the drop in GDP of 2008 and 9, and after the 2016 Leave vote, they predicted GDP would instantly plummet, but it didn't. Look, expert methods are not something to depend upon. They have no more wisdom than the common person. Experts also predicted the stock market would plummet after the Brexit result. Well, guess what? It went up. Look, indeed, it was reported that there was a frenzy of buying. And note that word frenzy. It's the power of emotion. Many are concerned about all this. The 2016 referendum gave people a chance to pull this emergency brake, and now it's time to listen very closely to those that pulled the handle, preferably with emotional intelligence, not to rubbish them for being racist or stupid or irrational. Their emotion is the most important form of intelligence at this time. In the next episode, we'll see how we got to be so obsessed with metrics and how emotion can trump rationality in decision making, and very often rightly so. So thank you very much for watching.